Hastings Half 2024. My brother D Mills versus me J Mills. Let battle commence. This is me lining up at the start, and you can see I'm somewhat back in Narnia. I went for a wee warm-up at the start about 25 minutes before for about 10 minutes, and then when I returned, every runner in all of the world had descended on Hastings. I wasn't really sure if Damo was high up near the front or he's a little bit behind me, if he was struggling to get through, so I just had to start running and see if I could come across him in the opening miles, whether that would be catching him up or him catching me up. The gun has gone off and well, we're not moving very fast. It is based on chip time, so it will only matter when I cross the line, but if Damo D Mills, my brother, has started quite a bit further up, it's going to be quite a mission to try and catch him. Coming across the line now, some a minute and a half behind when the gun went off, we are finally away, and I'm going to have to try and weed in and out of quite a few people. Now, I'll just put my pacing strategy up now. As you can see, I was attempting to try and run a 1 hour 25, which is a pretty bold effort 2 weeks out from my Brighton Marathon, and it's only 30 seconds slower than my PB. And given the elevation over this course, you can see that it's going to be very tough, but I was trying to be sensible, and if you look at my Garmin Pace Pro strategy, I'd set it to take it easy up the hills and to negative split. And given most of the hills are in the first half of the race, I thought that would stand me in best stead to beat Damo. As usually, he's not great going up hills, but he's a beast coming down them. So I wanted to reserve as much energy as possible for coming back down the hill. And I'll put the kilometre splits that Garmin was asking from me after putting in my strategy. And you can see much slower at the start because of those hills and the fact that I put into negative split. I will be putting up my mile splits actually because they're conveniently, it says every mile, so I can film when there's a mile, as I don't have enough camera battery to film the whole thing. But I will every 5 kilometers or so see how we're doing compared to that Pace Pro plan. So let's get in and see how we're doing. We find a young J Mills busy weaving in and out of lots and lots of runners. We're going at about 4:18 per kilometre that you can see in the top left of the screen. Luckily, I had set this first kilometre in that Pace Pro plan to be only a 4:32, but at this point I'm losing so much time. Look, I'm down to the 4:50s at the moment, and I really needed to get going to see if I could go find Damo. With how stuck I was at this point, there's nowhere for me to go. Spectators on the pavements, and it just full of copious amounts of people. I was kind of hoping that D Mills was going to plod up behind me, as you can see, 5:24 per kilometre, but he could have been struggling just as much even further behind. I just really wasn't sure where he was. I really wanted to push on to see if I could get some reasonable speed in early doors if he was only a little bit ahead of me, but I just had to really go at what the speed of everyone was around me at this point. A small easing in the congestion is granted to us now though, which is nice, and we oblige by surging into this little gap, and at the moment it's not looking as packed as it was, but we're about to turn right, and in all honesty, I do have a cheeky little corner cut across the grass as we head on up the first hill, and it's starting to look very, very busy again. No ability to extend that stride length here. Hastings direct squeezes through there, but we don't want to cause any accidents here, so we're being patient. I'm really not sure exactly what I should be doing. Should I be absolutely bombing it up this hill, which is quite hard with all the people, or just literally take it as easy as possible because Damo's behind me? But I pop onto the pavement here and have a nice little surge here. I did push up pretty hard here to get as many people out the way as possible before we turn left, and there's a little downhill section. And as we approached the bottom of this hill, looking back up another hill, I was greeted with this sight of just so many people here, despite how many people I'd already overtaken. I really realised it was going to be one of my toughest tests yet at this point. if Damo was indeed ahead of me. If he was behind, hopefully I was just saving my legs even more than I'd planned, and he'd stroll alongside me in a few seconds, and then we would get the race going. Said I was going to do mile splits, but here's the first kilometre. It's a 4 minutes 42, and that's 10 seconds off what the plan was a 4:32. So it's fairly close, and given how much I've been slowed down, it's not too bad. But it's a bit frustrating because that was already a pretty conservative first kilometre that I'd set out to do. And I don't think necessarily those 10 seconds has really saved my legs anything, as I've had to surge a few times. But it's not the end of the world. Plenty of race to go. Proper first downhill section here now. The pace plan wanted me to hit some 4-minute 06s, so I needed to see if I could get into a little bit of fresh air. But this was still proving pretty difficult. Stopped filming there, but essentially I ran onto the pavement there and absolutely pegged it down the hill. So my second kilometre split was by 4 minutes and 6 seconds. So we managed to get back 7 seconds from the Pace Pro plan, so only 3 seconds off overall. But as you can see now, the grueling task of running up these hills has just begun. Crawling along, at least we're not being held up at this point. Skipping to just before the 2 mile marker here. And having said I would put the mile splits in, I'm just going to continue to put the kilometre splits in where I can and not confuse anything. But we're passing the 2 mile sign at 3.2 kilometres-ish. And the 3 kilometre split was a 4 minutes 35, which is exactly what the Pace Pro plan wanted from me. So up that hill, I'd managed to maintain exactly what I needed, and I was only 3 seconds down. And we're now coming to the 3 mile marker, thick and fast. At this point, it was very undulating with decent amounts of downhill that I was, as you can see at the top left, really trying to gun it down to maintain an overall reasonable kilometre split, while easing up any hill, trying to take as little out myself as possible, as I still had not seen or heard a sniff of D-Mills. Fourth kilometre was a 4 minute 11, which was 2 seconds slower than the goal pace, so we're now down to 5 seconds down overall. And as we're approaching the 5th kilometre, I'll put that up now as well. Slowly coming uphill at this point, but a lot of it had been coming down, as you just seen a few seconds before. But that 5th kilometre was a 4 minute 05, which is 2 seconds quicker than the goal, so now we're only 3 seconds down on the Pace Pro plan at 5 kilometres, and I'm feeling alright. I'm thinking if Damo's behind me, I've definitely not taken much out of me if he comes through, and we can definitely have a good race from here. And if he's ahead of me, all I can do is race at the speed that I put into my watch, and at this point that was going perfectly to plan. We are now beginning to ascend though. It's going to be roughly 3 kilometres all uphill from now on, so we'll see how we feel at the end of those 3 kilometres. Some well-needed cheer from the brilliant spectators out in Hastings. That was very much needed. As we can see in the top right, we're beginning to climb up and up to 40 metres above sea level now. Up to 85 metres above sea level, passing the 4 mile sign on the right. That 6th kilometre was 4 minutes 49. So losing 11 seconds on the goal there, overall 14 seconds down. Are we starting to struggle a bit? Moving forward now to just before 8 kilometres. And it's still going uphill, 115 metres now, just in a gentle downhill now. 7th kilometre was a 4 minutes 38, 14 seconds slower, so overall we're 28 seconds off now. We quickly jumped to the 8th kilometre, which was a 4 minutes 29, losing ourselves 11 seconds, but I wasn't panicking at this point. I knew that I was being quite reserved. I had plenty left in. It was just whether Damo was ahead, and I needed to just maybe have a surge for a couple of kilometres to find him, but I had no idea of knowing how much I'd need to surge by, or should I just continue doing what I'm doing and he's going to catch me near the top of the hill? Usually I'm a lot better running up hills than Damo, so I thought I might have caught him by now, but then equally I was being fairly reserved because in case he caught me, so it was really, really quite tricky, but we go on. After a mostly uphill 3 kilometres, this flat section and another cheer station felt amazing. Was it time to now push on and go find D-Mills? Or was I running away from him? Time to see off a few lads, methinks. Exquisite. Continuing downhill now, making some moves. Approaching 9 kilometres. 9th kilometre, a 4 minutes 20, only 2 seconds lost to the Pace Pro this time, so it's still losing some time, but only 41 seconds down. Almost halfway now. Where the flying baby Jesus is D-Mills? Who the bloody hell needs D-Mills when you got vibes like this? Let's just have a big old party. But back to reality, J-Mills. That 10th kilometre of 4 minutes 05, 12 seconds off what you needed to hit. Down to 53 seconds off the goal speed, which is still alright. And we're approaching the top of the crest of the hill where it should be mostly downhill afterwards. And we will see whether we have actually managed to keep enough back to lick the stamp and absolutely send it down the hill. The 11th kilometre, a 4 minutes 20, a 10-second loss there, and we're now just over a minute off that goal speed, which would still put us at a 1 hour 26, so not too bad as we come through 7 kilometres.
I'm going to go downhill.
I believe that's me saying I really want to go downhill now, so as much as I was taking it relatively easy up the hills, it's still uphill, so it's still gonna burn those lungs. What on earth is going on here? Who the bloody hell's this? Oh shit, that's me!
And his name is
W-Mills! Introducing my youngest brother, W-Mills, to the channel. Now, as exciting as that is, it's very, very bad for my race.
Yeah. Well, you're on for a good time at Airsail, so I think I'm only 2 minutes behind.
W-Mills is going to have his own video because he had a quite incredible race that I think everyone should witness every second of. I was just letting him know there what an incredible time he was on for, as I was actually only about 1 minute 20 off my 125 flat time if I could negative split massively and send it to Narnia down the hill. But it obviously meant that D-Mills was bloody long gone. I'm pretty sure he started with Will. That I didn't actually ask Will, like, when did you last see Damo? How far roughly do you think he's ahead? I just at this point was like, he's probably miles ahead. We're about to go downhill for a while. This is going to be very hard to get him, but let's see what our body has and hope for a D-Mills blow up. But where is young D-Mills? Here we have some Strava data showing me in the black, the little black dot. I'm at 8 miles, coming downhill. D-Mills is actually going uphill at this point at 8.4 miles, and he's over 150 seconds ahead of me. I'd say about 165, 170. So my chances of catching him are almost zero, but then think back, I did start about 90 seconds behind. Meaning I was actually about 80 seconds behind on chip time. Obviously, I didn't know this at the time. I did now know 100% he was ahead of me. D-Mills didn't have that information. So can that bit of knowledge and the fact that I feel like I had saved a reasonable amount up the hills help me now really, really send it down? Even though it was still undulating a bit more than my liking at the moment. 12th kilometre now, and it's a 4 minutes 20, a massive 22 second loss to the Pace Pro plan, meaning I was now 85 seconds behind that 1 hour 25. This was the kilometre where it really set in the negative split. It was the first kilometre where I needed to start ramping up the speed. And even though this was about 70% uphill this kilometre, it wanted a sub 4. The kilometre you're watching now, the 13th, was 90% downhill, and it wanted me to do a 3 minute 46. So let's see if I can get anywhere near that, or the D-Mills dream is all but over. And I did. In that 13th kilometre, I managed a 3 minutes 46. So no more time lost to the Pace Pro. Were we now on to try and go catch D-Mills, even though it was only virtually chip time, even though I wasn't 100% sure that was what was happening at the time. Lovely. But what do we have here? It's D-Mills coming through the 9-mile marker. It makes no difference how close I am to that Pace Pro plan. It's all about how close I can get to D-Mills. So let's have a look at what he's managed to do the 13th and 14th kilometre in. 3 minutes 52 and 4 minutes 23 for D-Mills. And my 13th was a 3:46 as I showed before, and then a 4:32 14th. So I gained a bit and then lost a bit. So overall, only about a second lost. But I was still about 80 seconds behind D-Mills at this point. But now we're heading down a really steep bit for this 15th kilometre. Can I make any up here? As we're currently in the low 3 minute 30s. But unfortunately, as you can see, I didn't quite capture it. But there were still 2 upward sections, as you can see from that Garmin map. And at the end, quite a big uphill section. So it wasn't all downhill. I was told all the hills died after 5 miles. The 15th kilometre was a 4:06 for me. Over 20 seconds lost on the Pace Pro. But what about Damo? 3 minutes 55 seconds. He's gained 11 seconds on me with those 2 hills. Perhaps it's me who is an absolute wet wipe on the hills. Really, really going badly. Damo in the 16th kilometre now, and this is finally a kilometre that is fully downhill. Cutting back to me, this is my final opportunity to show what I'm made of and stop being a useless waste of space. Come on, J Mills. Nice steep bit here. Don't let the family down for one day in your life. I've been running around this guy just ahead for quite a while now, and my aim was just to try and stick with him as much as I could. Although I was having a little sniff of going past, and I believe I did as we hit 17 kilometres. What have I mustered up? It's a 3 minutes 38. Another 7 seconds lost. It wanted me to do a 3 minutes 31. As we approach flat ground on the seafront for the final 5 kilometres. I'm still only 2 minutes down on a 1 hour 25. If I could do a 1 hour 27, I wouldn't be that disappointed. But we all know the real question is, what had D-Mills managed in that 16th kilometre? Oh, it's a 3 minutes 33. He's continuing to absolutely spank my bottom as he comes through 11 miles, 2 miles to go. I'm 2 minutes off the Pace Pro plan. I'm 2 minutes off of D-Mills. And as we head onto the seafront, I was hit with a really irritating headwind that made me very, very angry. I've also just realised that I've been a kilometre out since the halfway mark. Got a little bit confused in the footage compared to what I was showing. All the times were right, the footage was just off by a kilometre. Very sorry, but if I have to edit any more, I might just cry forever and never make a video again. But we'll rectify that by now putting the 17th and 18th kilometre on, and we're in the 19th now. Well done, Jodie. Huge time lost, 3 minute 50. It wanted a low 3 minute 30, and then a 4 minute 6 when it wanted a 3:40. Time is slipping fast. What about D-Mills though? Not an absolute disgrace from J Mills. I've lost 3 seconds there over that 2 kilometres. But now with 2 kilometres to go, I need to make up 2 minutes. Not sure that's going to happen, and unfortunately, I have no more footage. I do luckily have Damo's footage from the end. Nothing really happened in these final few kilometres. Me and Damo are very evenly paced. Both of us, I think, were pretty mentally spent from not knowing where the other person was. Not knowing exactly how much to push and if you need to keep some back. It's actually fairly hard, I found, and D-Mills managed to do it a bit better than me. Coming to the final 100-metre sprint here, and Damo's having a little grunt there, trying to pick it up to see if he can get this guy in the yellow top at the end. He's not managing to pick it up drastically. He's only going at about 350 per kilometre. I can just... Oh, but he's... Oh, baby. He's really not got a lot left in him. Not really picking it up at all compared to what he's used to. I would expect a 3 flat here. Let's listen for the final bit of passion.
It is Jennifer wearing the colours of high today.
And D Mills is home, claiming another victory over J Mills. A 1 hour 28 2 seconds chip time for D Mills, a 1 hour 29.47 for me. Lesson learned of the day, never let D Mills out your sight. Where did my younger brother W Mills finish, you may ask? Well, you're going to have to wait for another video. He went through halfway, albeit starting a little bit ahead of me, at the same time as me practically, and his PB was only a 1 hour 35 before this at a much flatter course. So find out next video whether W Mills could hold on enough to get a PB. See you soon, everyone.